r/AskScienceFiction. Sapient Gregu says, Marvel, why can Dr. Doom use magic where Reed Richards can't? Doom and Richards are both geniuses in science, the absolute best in the Marvel universe. Yet while Doom is also one of the best sorcerers, Reed has consistently shown he cannot get the hang of magic. From what I have heard from my limited comics knowledge, even when Doom all but forced him to learn it to escape from a trap, Reed barely managed to pick up the basics. So what keeps Reed from getting it? It can't be a skill issue, as clearly at least as smart as Doom. And there's no way anyone is outmatching Doom in terms of ego, but he still works with it. What's different about Reed, or any of the other Marvel geniuses, that they can't use it? Or maybe what's different about Doom, that he alone can? Sock Puppet 7,654,321 says, because Reed Richards is simply inferior to Doom. Zeus 1218 says, Reed is too logical and too scientific to be able to excel in magic, and honestly he doesn't need it. Reed deal with cosmic entity on the regular and have accomplished things that defy logic using science alone. The dude build on the fly device that introduce a new universe to the multiverse like it's nothing. He also invented a device able to enter fictional world. I mean, at the point what he does is no much different from magic. Reed using science alone have done what most magic user can't replicate. Top tier sorcerer can warp reality. He build a cosmic cube who can do the same. They can time travel. Reed have the Forever Gate, a machine that can bring you anywhere and everywhere you want. They deal with cosmic entity. Reed beat them on the regular etc. Rely on something as unreliable as magic, when science can help you do the same or better. Voyager 5555 says, why can't Professor X do magic? He's smarter than the Scarlet Witch, or maybe that's just not how it works. Petulant Raven says, you need to read Wade and Wieringo's run on and the following. This is brought up as a key plot point and its payoff is spectacular. Throwaway 321,768 says, now I'm curious, has Drive Strange ever tried explaining to Reed Richards? Strange himself was an accomplished surgeon. He knows what it's like to have your materialistic preconceptions of the world shattered. Listen, Reed, I know this stuff doesn't make sense half the time, but there's a logic to it. Lily says, well, he is the Sorcerer Supreme, not the Wizard Supreme. Akira Howlett says, it's entirely an issue of mindset. Reed has a very dogmatic everything has a scientific explanation mindset. To the point where he can look directly at something inherently supernatural, vampires, deities, sorcerers, etc. and just go, there's gotta be a way to explain this scientifically. Doom, however, has no issue accepting magic. He sees magic as another way to seize power and control and to show off his superiority. Just another field he can show off to the world how much better he is than them. And to be fair, Doom is genuinely good at magic, to the point where even Strange admitted he could become Sorcerer Supreme if he wanted the position. Unique Coffee 5087 says, it's in his blood. His mother was a witch or gypsy. I believe she was tasked by the previous ruler of Latveria to predict the future, and he didn't like her answer, and so she was executed. Her son learned all he could of science and magic, hoping to combine the two into a method to rescue her from hell. Richards was in the same year as Doom in college, and reviewed some of his notes. He clearly understood enough of what was described to find and point out an error. Doom, in his arrogance, ignored Richards and proceeded to use a device he constructed to try to contact his mother's soul. The error manifested disastrously, injuring Doom and scarring his face. That Richards could read Doom's lab notes and calculations and understand them so quickly says that he has a good understanding of the intersection of science and magic. He did not simply discount Doom's project as superstition, but gave a constructive criticism. You forgot to carry the 7 here. Perhaps Richard saw in Victor Von Doom's downfall a critical instability in the use of magic that caused him to decide to leave it aside for the more reliable tools of science. That said, Richards allowed the witch Agatha Harkness to be Franklin's nanny. Again, Reed does not reject or discount magic out of hand, and recognized the utility of Harkness' expertise in helping to control the chaotic powers that Franklin possessed from birth. r/AskScienceFiction. Ronald McDuck 107 says, Men in Black, how do the Men in Black have jurisdiction across the universe? The Men in Black are an organization that started in the 60s, so they haven't been around that long, and when they were first founded humanity wasn't even a spacefaring species yet. Barely any of the advanced tech that the MIB has was made by humans, and it would seem that most of their agents are stationed on Earth. So how do they have the power or the authority to be outlawing time travel across the universe, and how would they even enforce it? Blamor Deganus says, because they are galaxy defenders, duh. Poorly Drawn Beagle says, because Earth is of massive strategic and diplomatic importance. Klepto 666 says, I took it to mean not that they have universal jurisdiction or even the ability to enforce it across the universe, but rather they have deemed it illegal, no matter where it's used in the universe. Just like how a country on Earth can outlaw something and punish you for it, even if you did it outside the country's borders, whether it means extradition or just charging you upon your return. If the MIB find out an alien used time travel somewhere in the universe, they will be considered a wanted criminal upon being discovered on Earth. It's also possible that the MIB contacted aliens off planet and persuaded them to outlaw time travel. And then they encouraged other aliens to outlaw it. And so forth, until all law-abiding civilized alien species in the universe have outlawed it. In that scenario, the MIB outlawed it across the universe, even if they don't have the power to actually do so. They were just the initial push that made it a success. Richard M. says, via statute with the powers that have signed on to the treaties that make Earth a neutral port and the MIB the governing entity of that relationship. They get to say that because the major powers of the universe said they can. Cheo's Music says, in the first movie they refer to treaties, so there must be some form of galactic governments, or United Nations or something similar. When MIB learn about time travel devices, they spearhead an initiative to make them illegal. Alien governments, sharing the same concerns over criminals or dissidents or terrorists messing with timelines, agree and everyone makes time travel illegal. Thus, MIB made time travel illegal everywhere. Exostrike says, the easiest explanation is that the MIB teamed up with other like-minded organizations, who may also control the MIB at arm's length, to suppress time travel tech, with the MIB cracking down on time travel tech on Earth specifically. Given the general themes of grand masquerades, conspiracies, and organizations suppressing the truth, man, this franchise aged poorly. These forces would be very against anything that can radically shake up the status quo. Wadsworth Mixtamp says, the same way any organization outlaws anything. They simply state that it's illegal now, and if somebody challenges them on it, they punish that person. There's a fair chance that it's not the MIB who enforce it everywhere. Alien governments who want to do business with or on Earth will enforce those laws in their own territory, just like various countries on Earth go along with US sanctions against Iran because they want to keep using US banks. Josh Thutanegai says, well, from what I recall, the Earth is effectively the universe/galaxy's main Switzerland, so to speak. So we take refuges, tech, money, displaced species, things that are illegal elsewhere but not in our system, etc. in exchange for other things, I'm sure. But that gives us a particular bargaining ability. Simply saying they no longer have access to the DMZ/Switzerland, that is, Earth, would probably have far-reaching economic/political ramifications. One I can make up as an example would be peace talks between other species wanting a neutral ground. If your species doesn't comply with our requirements, then you are now hindered by not being able to negotiate in the only place others deem neutral. Not to mention, I'd argue most leaders in power across all species wouldn't want rampant time travel anyways. It would only serve to destroy power structures etc, which they would benefit from the most. Imagine becoming a leader on any planet knowing there's a chance someone might travel through time and prevent you from being born entirely because they don't like your opinions. I'm sure they still do it secretly, but they wouldn't let any old Joe do so. So I'd imagine it wasn't too difficult for Earth, while leading the charge against time travel, to convince or force the hands of other leaders. r/AskScienceFiction. CI Bill Amlaw says, Mortal Kombat, how is everyone always alive? Doesn't that defeat the point? I'm only a very casual Mortal Kombat player, so I don't very much follow the story. However, if the fights are as deadly as they seem to be, and everyone's getting spines ripped out, how is there any story mode and recurring characters? Did Johnny Cage survive one tournament? If so, how is this in any way a deathmatch if everyone, including the regular humans, can just keep on coming back for more? James the Mannequin says, are you concerned there's not a permadeath mode? Villig3Idiots says, to add to what's already been mentioned, due to time travel, it's implied that every ending did in fact happen, just in other timelines. So yeah, a lot of the cast died, it just happened in other timelines. Chrono09 says, there are a variety of explanation of why this happens. There are instances in the story where the winning character either chooses not to kill their opponent, or is prevented from doing so not every battle results in a death. Many characters do die in the story mode. A few minor characters haven't come back, and of the ones who have, it's usually a plot point that they were resurrected. The 9th game in the series was a reboot that started the timeline over with all the dead characters returning, although there were some time travel shenanigans, and the 12th game was another reboot with multiverse shenanigans, so stuff like that is also why they return. I'll also point out that many of the graphic deaths in the series, such as the fatalities, don't canonically happen in story mode. They are there for the player's entertainment, but the games either don't let you do them in their story mode, or they ignore that they happened, meaning that they did not occur in the actual story. Since you mentioned Johnny Cage, I'll point out that he's not a normal human. He was originally portrayed that way, but it was eventually revealed that he's descended from a line of people with supernatural powers. Every major character in the series' story has superhuman abilities in one way or another, which is how they are able to keep up with one another in battle. Thiscarlet Tholet says, well, I know that winners of tournament are granted agelessness, not immortality, so that explains why they can participate in the next tournament. As for the losses various magic/scientific shenanigans, I assume. Ragnarok Wolves says, MK9 depicts a cinematic story mode that relives the first few Mortal Kombat tournaments, and official fights were not necessarily to the death. Most canonical fights through the series are to a KO. Princess Plus Ultra says, I like to imagine there's characters we don't see that do get murdered, so the main characters can advance in the tournament. We are just following the ones that won or got lucky. Mracobalt 313 says, I mean in the actual story modes they absolutely do die, and their return in subsequent games is typically due to some combination of magic resurrection, necromancy, time travel, or Chronica rebooting the timeline again, because things are getting too chummy for her liking. Bob Skywalker says, I think the better question to ask about MK is this: how is it that Earthrealm is both the modern real world at times and also a fantasy-like version of pre-industrial Asian storybook myth? Like, it is supposed to be the 21st century, and scenes with America or the special forces show this, but everything that has to do with Shaolin, ninjas, clans, and stuff in Asia seems like it was trapped in time hundreds of years ago. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.